It's Wednesday, May 15th, 2024. Let's talk about the news. From Reuters, Georgia students walk out, Prime Minister passes foreign agent bill. Hundreds of university students in the Georgian capital city Tbilisi walked out of classes in solidarity with thousands of protesters who have been taking to the streets almost every night for a month in opposition to a bill that will ostensibly allow the government to clamp down on foreign NGOs, while also making eventual ascension to the European Union more difficult or impossible. Despite that opposition, Georgia's parliament voted the law through yesterday. The governing Georgian Dream Party has argued that they need to know who's behind NGOs operating in the country, and that this legislation would give them a better idea of who's funding what, which in turn would help them flag potential interference by Western powers. Opponents of this law have argued that it's a clone of a Russian law that allows them to basically label anyone they don't like a foreign operative, which in turn allows the ruling party to jail their political opponents and anyone else who makes trouble for them. The Georgian Dream Party has thus been accused of attempting to stall or prevent Georgia's joining the EU in favor of better relations with Russia, while the vast majority of the country supports more alignment with Europe. Georgia's president is expected to veto the law, though Parliament can override that veto with another vote. From the Associated Press, U.S. Energy Panel approves rule to expand transmission of renewable power. After 2 years of development, U.S. federal energy regulators approved a rule that's meant to help boost the country's power grid by streamlining aspects of the infrastructure deployment and upgrade process, while also changing how costs are divvied out to involved states. This is a big rule, about 1,300 pages long, so there are a lot of specifics and niche situations addressed, but in essence, it's meant to simplify existing rules and folkways in the energy infrastructure space that have incentivized energy companies to not expand and invest in new poles, cables, and the like, while also leaving a lot of existing power infrastructure unupgraded, despite the huge amount of new power generation that's been coming online, and which is scheduled to come online in the next decade. This is generally being seen as a big deal, but there's still ample room for it to be challenged in court, most likely by energy companies that don't want to make these investments or risk losing their regional monopolies, and state legislators who oppose the deployment of new renewable energy power production. And from Bloomberg, China to start $138 billion bond sale to boost economy. Beginning this Friday, China's government will begin selling 1 trillion yuan, which is about $138 billion in long-term bonds, as part of an ongoing effort to boost its economy at a tricky moment. China's economy has faced several years of less than impressive numbers, in part because of how regional governments have been spending and how much debt they've been taking on, in part because of normal ebbs in productivity and population figures, and in part because of how dependent the economy had become on real estate, an industry that in recent years has suffered from all sorts of collapses and scandals. This debt is ultra-long-term, with more than half of it maturing in 30 years, about a third of it in 20 years, and around a tenth in 50 years, according to a report by Bloomberg, which has not been confirmed by the Chinese government. Word of this sale has been well received by investors, in part because it's thought the People's Bank of China will loosen regulations on banks alongside this bond sale, and some analysts believe this sale could add as much as a full % to China's GDP. If you're finding some value in One Sentence News, consider leaving a quick review wherever you get your podcasts and/or sharing the show with a friend. You can find out more about this show or subscribe to the email version at onesentencenews.com. And you can support this and other related projects, like the Let's Know Things and Brain Lenses podcasts at understandery.com.